Welcome, everybody. Making sure that my sound is working properly. Can I see a thumbs up from the participants? Do you hear me? Thank you. I want to welcome a large number of guests and some people whose faces you're seeing now to the online tribute to mark the completion of Shloshim for Shulamit Bastacky, whose life touched so many, as we were able to see in that video we just watched. I'm a little bit emotional, so excuse me. So Shloshim is literally 30. Shloshim is Hebrew for 30. And it refers to the month-long period after burial, which includes the first 7 days, which are called Shiva, and then goes on through the remainder of a month. And we've completed 30 days. And I'm just moved to welcome so many of you from Shulamit's life. So we have people from all over the world joining us, people who are related to Shulamit, and many, many people who knew and loved her, as I surely did. So the program today includes video recordings that many of you submitted in advance, as well as some speakers who will join us live. We could spend months sharing memories of Shulamit. So large was her impact across our region and beyond. So I know that what we're doing together today will not give us enough time to do what we want to do, but it's a start. And I think that, in Shulamit's memory, we will continue to spread her message and continue to share her story for years and years to come. I want to invite everyone to share memories of Shulamit in the chat feature. So you will see that in your Zoom window. Down at the bottom, there's a voice bubble that says chat. We're monitoring it. You never really know what's going to go into a chat. So please use this feature to share your memories of Shulamit. And we're going to watch it. If we need to shut it down, we will. I sure hope that's not going to happen today. But if it does, we're prepared for it. We also have a guest book for Shulamit. And Jackie Reese, who's behind the scenes on this program, is going to share that to the chat. Those quotes that you saw in the video at the beginning came from the guest book. I ask you please to enter your memories there. And I especially want to thank both Jackie Reese and Christina Sahovi, who have worked so hard to make this day come together. And also, Mrs. Messina, we'll hear from you a little bit later, but we were talking about how you don't have a photograph with Shulamit. That video ended with the most beautiful photograph of the two of you together. We'll make sure that you have a physical copy of that. So we're going to begin our program today with a compilation video of the videos that people submitted to us. And then a little bit later, we'll hear from some people live. Thank you again for being with us.
Well, I'm Meg Gibson. I am a volunteer with Age Well for the past about 2.5 years, I think. And the past 9 years, I've been a stay-at-home mom, and so I've been excited to pursue different volunteer opportunities around Pittsburgh, and I've just fell in love with Age Well and Shulamit, of course.
My name is Shulamit Bastacky. I am a Holocaust survivor, and I've been speaking in schools since about 85. When I received the call of possible having a volunteer from Age Well, I just went right for it. And I am beyond lucky to have this particular volunteer.
I was really intrigued with Age Well, with the idea of having a direct impact on individuals. I just love the ability to get to meet some intriguing people. When Shulamit and I get together, it's just about maybe sometimes an hour, sometimes 2 hours, because we get to talking.
We just have great discussions and talks, and she's very receptive to my sharing with her what I am doing.
With Shulamit, I've had an opportunity to see what life is like after a significant tragedy. Shulamit's a survivor and a hero that to live through the Holocaust and then continue to have such a successful, happy, healthy, loving life is really inspiring.
For me, it's just having the connection, someone who is a little bit younger generation than I am, and who is receptive and listening to my stories, to my life story. She's so receptive. She's just a fabulous listener. And just a very, if I needed anything, she was able to, for example, to get something for me that I needed. And we looked on that computer little device that she has, and she was able to get it for me.
Age Well is an amazing organization that it asks so little, an hour a month of you. You could definitely get more involved if you wanted, but just to sit down and have a conversation with somebody, it's remarkable the smiles that it brings and how much it can uplift somebody's day.
I enjoy this immensely. I feel that enriches my life by visits. As I said before, I hope this will continue for a long time possible. Okay, well, I think it's important to make a difference in people's lives who are much less fortunate than we are. The joy of giving, it's warms our hearts.
How could I capture a giant of a woman? The best way I know how is actually how I first met Shulamit. It was after my high school performance, and we were backstage. Shulamit made it a point to come backstage and to let all of us know that we were magnificent and that she was so impressed by our performance. This is a woman who always took the opportunity to raise other people up, to see them for who they were, and to find ways to give them unconditional love. This woman, who I had met in my teens, I reunited with her in my 30s. And of course, the moment I saw her, I knew exactly who she was. This, Shulamit, was a giant of a woman that I was blessed to be part of her life.
Anna Frank, in the Diary of Anna Frank, which she said, give of yourself as much as you can. No one has become poor from giving.
My name is Scott DeVivo, and I first met Shulamit when she came to talk to my students a few years ago during a unit on the Holocaust. I had to drive across town to pick her up and bring her to the school, and so we had a good hour and a half alone in the car, and we just had the best conversations about everything, things that were going on in the world, religion, my students, and the importance of education. And I was just struck by how just amazingly kind Shulamit was, especially when she interacted with my students. After hearing her story and getting to know Shulamit more, what I'll always remember about her is just how much she loved those around her, despite the terrible events that she'd lived through. And that's something that I'll try to always share with my students.
My name is Debbie Stuber, and I met Shulamit in the early 1990s when I joined the Holocaust Center as a volunteer. More recently, we were both speakers at Dorseyville Middle School in the Fox Chapel area school district. I can remember after her presentation, the students always wanting to hug her. It was truly a pleasure to know Shulamit, as she was always a positive force in the community and committed to Holocaust education. She will be sorely missed, and may her memory always be a blessing.
I'm so grateful to have met her and spoken with her and learned so much from her.
Well, we talked about going to the schools and the difference that you wanted to make in everyone's lives, and you definitely touched mine as well. Hopefully your story will never end.
I will always remember how positive and upbeat she was despite experiencing something as horrible as the Holocaust.
She had such a kind personality. And I remember that she always just had this positive attitude and smile on her face. And it just made me smile. I want to say thank you, Shulamit, for sharing your story.
She was still very positive.
Because of her, I now think about what everybody has been through.
I remember my mom and brother came in. We all got to meet her. And it was just really nice to eat lunch with her and have her talk to us.
There's so much about you that I love, but it's simple just to say, I love you.
Hi Shulamit, this is the Goldberg family. We will forever remember you for the part that you played in our daughter's Nev's bat mitzvah.
And like so many, we appreciated the story that you shared with us and the warmth and love that you gave us in a very, very brief period of time.
It was so wonderful getting to meet you, and it has been such a blessing knowing you, and you have been a huge inspiration in my life and in my studies as a Jewish woman.
We will miss you, and we love you.
Our names are Kaylee and Ethan Warner. When we were 12, our Zadie brought us to the JCC to meet Holocaust survivors. Out of a handful of survivors we met on that day, Shulamit's story stood out to us.
Shulamit was incredibly kind, and her story was powerful. We decided on that day to ask her to twin with us for our B'nai Mitzvah. In short, this was an opportunity for us to share our B'nai Mitzvah with Shulamit because she was just a child during the Holocaust, and therefore she never got to have a bat mitzvah of her own.
This experience was impactful to all three of us. Ethan and I learned so much during our time with Shulamit, and in return we were blessed with an incredibly powerful B'nai Mitzvah together.
Shulamit Bastacky was my friend for about 35 or 40 years. Her joy of life and her joy in life was remarkable. Her voice was always full of life. She greeted me the most wonderful way each time I saw her. She was willing to meet and befriend any person who was interested in meeting her. I hear her voice in my head. I miss her every day. She was an inspiration to all of us, and I thank you for giving this time to me to remember her. And I'm Ellen Toker. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Scott Venzel, and I teach 8th grade language arts at Dorseyville Middle School in the Fox Chapel Area School District. It's located in Pittsburgh. I was fortunate enough to get to know Shulamit over the last few years, and she came to our school and shared her story with our students. In fact, we were able to donate teddy bears on her behalf to a local organization in the Pittsburgh area. My daughter, Giovanna, was able to meet her a few times at our Holocaust Remembrance Assemblies, weren't you?
Yeah.
And she was actually able to give her a teddy bear. How did that feel?
Good.
Why did it feel good?
It felt good because to give somebody a teddy bear and see them smile made me happy.
That's awesome. So we'd like to thank all of you for letting Shulamit into our life. She definitely brightened it, and we'll always remember her spirit. Thank you and take care.
My name is Cindy Goodman-Lieb. When I think about Shulamit, I smile. I hear her voice, her warm, friendly, energetic, and encouraging voice. When I think about Shulamit, words that come to mind are sweetness and smiles, and always giving the biggest hello at the JCC, around Squirrel Hill, making each person feel so special, for she knew in her soul how much it meant to feel loved. Teddy bears and smiles, love and caring, and how she loved the Israelis who visited from Pittsburgh's partnership region, Carmion Miskav, and they loved her. When I think about Shulamit, I remember her, arm in arm during Yom HaShoah, with Israeli youth, drawing strength from each other. Shulamit, our world is a more caring and loving place because of you. May you continue to be a source of inspiration, and may your memory forever be a blessing.
Hello, my name is Marla Holland, and I'm a second-year MSW student at the University of Pittsburgh. I had the pleasure and honor of meeting Shulamit through my first-year practicum at JFCS. Shulamit was an incredible individual who aimed to share love and joy with those around her by educating them about her experiences during the Holocaust. After my practicum ended, I continued to keep in touch with Shulamit. We even got to celebrate each other's birthdays and enjoy some delicious treats. I will always remember Shulamit and how kind, caring, and supportive she was. I aspire to live my life by following the positive example she set for everyone whose path she crossed.
So I'm charging every single one of you to fight with words. Words matter, what we say matters, what we do matters, whether it's good or bad. So let's do the positive. Let's actually shake each other, give each other hugs for support, and just live by those words. Thank you. Here we go. Look at this. I'm just going down the hall.
Hi, I'm Roberta Weisberg. My husband Richard and I, although we grew up in Squirrel Hill and had many similar experiences, really only became acquainted when we met at a Yom HaShoah commemoration planning meeting in the Holocaust Center of Pittsburgh more than 20 years ago. That fateful meeting and our involvement in the center has changed and enriched our lives. But our interest in the Holocaust is not a dry study of remote history. It is enlivened and made urgent by the very real, courageous, and inspiring survivors of that vast horror, whom we have come to know and to love. Shulamit Bastacky was one of the first Pittsburgh area survivors who befriended us as we became more involved with the center. As she honored us by attending our wedding, she has honored all of us with her dedication to truth and her refusal to allow her personal, painful history to destroy her appreciation and commitment to life and to the pursuit of goodwill among all people. Shuli, as I like to call her, when we would visit together at the JCC Health Club, always had a story of a new friend from another country to whom she talked about tolerance, or something fun about her latest teddy bear collecting, or about a special group of area students she'd visit who'd all fall in love with her story and sincere desire to help build understanding in our world. And Shulamit, in her selfless way, always asked after my, in her words, beautiful mother. A kinder heart, a more dedicated to good person, I sadly will probably never meet. May her memory be for a blessing. Thank you.
I'm Linda Hurwitz. I was director of the Holocaust Center from 1988 to 2005. During that time, I had the privilege of spending a lot of time with many of the Holocaust survivors, but especially Shulamit Bastacky, who sadly passed away recently, was always the most enthusiastic participant in all of our programs and in all of our efforts to reach students, teachers, and the general community to help educate them about the Holocaust. Shulamit, perhaps because of the way she was rescued or saved by a non-Jew in her infancy and early years of life, was especially effective in creating a bridge between the Jewish and non-Jewish world. She was the social worker by training, but in personality as well, always making friends with people in Pamela's, through Action Reconciliation Service for Peace volunteers, with actors and directors through Prime Stage Theater. Wherever she went, as soon as she could see that someone had some interest, she reached out to them. She introduced herself. She engaged them and pulled them into the programs, activities, and missions of the Holocaust Center. I know she met an African-American veteran at Pamela's one day and started talking to him, and he became involved in our Yom HaShoah programming. I know with all the Action Reconciliation volunteers from Germany, she had a special bond and was like a substitute mother to all of them, or a great aunt, taking them under her wing, making sure that they felt accepted in the community and participated during the time they spent in Pittsburgh. I especially spent time with her since I was on the board of Prime Stage Theater under Wayne Brinda, going to Prime Stage before performances that were related to the Holocaust to talk to the actors and directors to help them have a sensitivity and an understanding of the roles that the victims, the perpetrators, the righteous Gentiles, and the bystanders had in the history of the Holocaust. When she went to schools, she had a warmth about her and approachability about her. She had her teddy bear project so that she made them feel listened to and cared for. And she really had this very special role as probably the youngest Holocaust survivor that participated in our programming of creating bonds and bridges between the Jewish and non-Jewish community in Holocaust education. And whether she was able to walk on her own or then walking with a walker, she never said no to an invitation or an opportunity to be part of our programming. And I enjoyed the many times that I took her to these programs or that we went together to meet groups and to talk with them about what they knew, what they wanted to know, and to see their transformation as we helped inform them about Holocaust history. I'm glad she's being so well remembered, and I spoke to her shortly before she passed away, and she still had this upbeat tone, was asking about me and my family. And I think her positivity and her hopefulness is something that that influenced many people, even talking about a serious topic such as the Holocaust. To me, she, as all the survivors, are inspirational in the resilience to have lived through a difficult time, dealt with changes and moves and adjustments and new languages. And I'm glad she's being so well remembered. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Avi Baron Monroe, and I'm privileged to be sharing just some of my experiences of Shulamit with you on the occasion of her Shloshim. I got to know Shulamit when she interviewed my mother for the Shoah Foundation in 2009, and she was always very proud that she was the person that took down Malka Baron's testimony. She would tell me that frequently. I also got to know her really just in the community in my capacity as Moshe Baron's daughter. I got around a lot to a lot of events, and in my capacity as head of school at Community Day School, I would go to a lot of events, sometimes also with my dad. And Shulamit would always be there, and just remarkable because she did have mobility challenges, and those events are not always the most accessible, but there she would be, and no one could really have an excuse to not go somewhere because you knew that if Shulamit was there, you had no excuse not to be there. And she was very assertive about getting what she needed, getting a ride if she needed it, getting help going somewhere in the venue if she needed it. And that just made it really easy to be around her and really easy to be helpful in a way that she made everybody comfortable. It was also a privilege to have Shulamit at our home for Seder, but thanks to the Shirok family for bringing her. And we really enjoyed having her, and she really enjoyed being there. And she would call multiple times after the event to thank me for the chicken soup and matzo balls and for the conversation that was had, but mostly and most repeatedly for those handsome young men, my sons, who would help her get up and down the steps to our home. And I'm sure that many of you had calls like that as well. She had an amazing energy, and we were lucky to know her. And I'm just very inspired by her presence, and that will stay with me, and I'm sure with all of you. And I hope that brings comfort to her friends and family who I know are going to miss her, as I will.
Shulamit Bastacky, despite her difficult beginnings in life, was an unusually bright star in our firmament of depressive news. A giving, caring woman who grew up under unfathomable circumstances during the Holocaust, who despite it all developed an incredibly positive outlook on life, never complaining and always seeing the good in people. We had a wonderful friendship, meeting a few days a week and going to the JCC together. Shulamit was always interested in hearing news about my family. She used to often treat me to Israeli wafers, my favorite snack. And every time we were blessed with a new grandchild, that baby received a teddy bear. Shulamit knew from personal experience what an important role toys played in children's lives. Shulamit was an untiring ambassador for Holocaust education. That was her way of fighting hatred and intolerance and inculcating the values of love and acceptance. She spoke in front of hundreds of students every year to make sure that kids would grow up to embrace people who were different than they. Ultimately, she may have influenced thousands, helping to counteract forces of Holocaust deniers, anti-Semitism, and simple, neglectful forgetfulness. From the hundreds of student letters, notes, poems, and drawings that she received, it is clear how impactful and touching her story was to children of all ages. We hope and pray that they will never forget her and carry her message well into the future. To me, Shulamit was a ray of sunshine, brightening my day, always reminding me of how precious life is. She is and will be missed very much. Yehi zichra baruch. May her memory be for an eternal blessing.
Well, I think you should be able to hear me now, even if you can't see me. So I want to thank everybody who submitted videos, and so moved to hear the connections across generations that people had with Shulamit, from Roberta and Richard at your wedding, that beautiful photograph, to Linda Hurwitz, who was director of the Holocaust Center for so long, to Avi, the memory of Malka and Moshe, and my own mother, who put a comment in the chat about how she and Shulamit were, quote, partners in crime. They were always plotting something, and Shulamit loved that. She loved knowing things that other people didn't quite know, and it was always for good, but she was fun that way. And everybody who knew her saw the twinkle that was always in her eye. She was always up to something. So we also heard from some teachers in those videos and from some students who connected with Shulamit. Now we're going to transition into hearing from people live in this program. And we're going to start with Nick Haberman. Nick.
Hello, Lauren. Can you hear me okay?
I hear you.
Fantastic. Well, if there's one aspect of Shulamit's life I can celebrate and share with everyone today, it's her relationship with educators and students. I've been fortunate to have met educators from all across Western Pennsylvania, and none of them can say the name Shulamit without smiling or laughing or diving into a story about that one time when Shulamit did this or the time she did that. And they're not talking about the 1940s. They're talking about the last few years. They're talking about her experiences with students, with teachers and school staff. Each and every time she entered the school building, she owned it. She was a local celebrity in that moment and became fast friends with all the students and staff in the building. And when I say she became fast friends, I mean within 25 feet of entering the building, she was friends with the security guard, the secretaries, the principals, and it was always difficult to get her out of the main office and get her to the classroom because she wanted to continue befriending the school staff she'd gotten to know so well over the last 2 minutes. If it were her choice, she would have remained in the school for the entire day, speaking individually with each and every person in the building. Her mission in schools was one of hope, resilience, kindness, positivity, volunteerism, charity, inspiration, healing, and love. When she finally got to her intended destination in the school building, she'd walk into a room full of students and her eyes would light up. The teachers who had the pleasure of watching her interact with students will never forget the joy and excitement, watching students not only hear her story, but truly feel a connection with her. There were always hugs and selfies throughout the visit and promises for her to return soon. Holocaust education is difficult, but whether speaking to seniors in high school or primary school students, Shulamit knew just what to say and how to say it. I once watched her paint ceramic butterflies side by side at a table with children ages 4 through 10 years old. in memory of children killed in the Holocaust. And not once did she get mad or talk about hate or revenge. Instead, she kept using words like kindness, love, hope, friendship, caring. She was the living, breathing, perfect classroom resource, able to get students of all ages to apply the lessons of the Holocaust to their own schools and communities. 5 minutes with Shulamit was more impactful and inspirational than 90 days of my Holocaust class lectures. I'm no expert on her life outside of her school visits, but I'm sure every teacher would agree she was our own personal, real-life Mr. Rogers, connecting with children in a way that was always a joy and privilege to experience, and one we'll never forget. Undoubtedly, her memory will live in the hearts and classrooms of educators and students forever.
Nick, thank you so much. Next, I want to welcome Jordan and Carol Perlman, please.
My godmother, Shulamit, who technically was my cousin, but whom I affectionately referred to as my aunt, was the most courageous, caring, kind-hearted, and brave person I knew. She always reminded me she was my godmother and that she carried me down the steps when I was 8 days old to my bris. Her courage was contagious as she helped guide me through the process of writing my bar mitzvah speech. She was also the first person to introduce me to Kennywood, enduring many thrilling and heart-stopping rides with me. She was certainly the most well-known of her family. I must have read at least 100 newspapers and internet articles on her and my findings. But my fondest memory of my dear Aunt Shulamit is when she chose to showcase her bravery, as she did many, many times before and after, by sharing her story and answering questions about surviving the Holocaust to my 7th grade class at Community Day School. I will never forget how truly a blessing my godmother was to me. I've ensured that by hanging many photos of her all over my bedroom. I am beyond grateful at the positivity she shared in our last conversation, in which the last words were I was privileged to say was that I was proud of her and that I loved her. And in so she repeated those exact words back to me. I will leave you with one of her quotes from my 30th birthday party. Your courage is as far as you can accomplish by your dreams. Go for it, cousin. You can do it. If you wish it, it is not a dream. You're Aunt Shulamit. I will, Aunt Shulamit, and in your honor.
Hello. My cousin Shulamit Israela Bastacky and I were friends for over 58 years. She was a beautiful maid of honor at our wedding. Then in 1982, I asked Shulamit to be my son's godmother. Her kindness was always there for him. As the years continued in Squirrel Hill, Shulamit and I celebrated many simchas and milestones, as well as supported each other in times of sorrow. It was important for Shulamit to keep family ties. Her brother Mark and Libby helped her in many ways, and all the Bastacky cousins were dear to her heart. I have photos and pictures when we were invited to summer picnics and Thanksgiving in Little Washington with the 2 Bastacky cousins and their families. Shulamit had a special admiration for the Holocaust Center of Pittsburgh. She showed me and I read letters she received after her presentations from the various schools. A love for Judaism and Israel was always with her. Shulamit was a special member of Young People's Shul. She revisited Israel a few times and was always fond of her Aunt Yecheva and Hadassah from Israel. Shulamit was also a volunteer here in Pittsburgh. She was a life member of Hatikva Na'amat USA organization. She was no stranger to the Jewish Federation at the yearly Super Sunday. Since moving to our apartment building, Shulamit helped with voters registration and led the Passover Seder for the residents there. She was also a health club member for many years at the JCC and knew many of the seniors there. Shulamit's meaningful friendships in Pittsburgh was long-lasting, as well as people from various states and countries who kept in touch with her. In closing, I will read a favorite quote of mine. The personal affection we give to our dear ones in life and in death are the real honor we bestow upon them. Dearest Shulamit, you are missed and will continue to be missed. Your loving cousin Carol. Jordan and I would like to thank the Holocaust Center for the Zoom presentation of the celebration of life for our dear Shulamit Israela Bastacky.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you both. Next up, we're going to hear from Professor Stephen Fenves. Professor.
Hello.
Hello.
I met, Shulamit and I met exactly 41 years ago at the meeting at which the Pittsburgh Holocaust Survivors Organization was formed, and she and I became its first two officers. Shulamit devoted a great deal of her attention and activities to the Survivors Organization and later to the Holocaust Center that eventually absorbed the organization. She was the perennial organizer of meetings, Purim and Hanukkah parties, annual summer picnics, everything else, but first and foremost, the annual participation of the Holocaust survivors in the Israel Day Parade through Squirrel Hill. Shulamit was devoted both to the memory of the victims of the Holocaust and to the well-being of the survivors that she encountered. More broadly, she was devoted to people, as all the testimonials you've heard so far amply demonstrate. Meeting people, learning about them, providing comfort and support for them, educating them, warning them of the antecedents and consequences of the Holocaust. Those were the guiding concerns of her life. Zikrona Ra, may her memory be for a blessing.
You've heard from a couple of people about the special relationships that Shulamit developed with the volunteers who came to Pittsburgh from Germany through Action Reconciliation Services for Peace. And we have one of the volunteers Shulamit told many stories about with us now. So I want to welcome Florian. Please join us.
Hi, I'm Florian. I'm originally from Nuremberg, Germany. And I think it's amazing that even in death, Shulamit is able to bring so many people together, because this is kind of what she did. I want to talk a little bit about the profound impact that she had on my life and on, I'm sure, most of the volunteers who came. When I first arrived in Pittsburgh, I'm sure Shulamit told the story many times. I was a pretty rebellious and angry young man, and I donned some orange dreadlocks, which Shulamit loved to tell that story. I think in some ways her friendship and her adoption, I mean, she became my adopted grandmother. And always made sure that me and all the volunteers were fed well. And she, there were many trips to Pamela's. She loved those pancakes, probably a little more than telling the story about my dreadlocks. But I think more importantly, it's her friendship and kindness that really sort of helped me channel some of that anger and commitment to social justice and equity from a confrontational stance into a more, constructive sort of attitude. And I don't think it's a coincidence that I ended up becoming a social worker, similar to Shulamit. And I'm actually now a professor of social work here at the University of Missouri in St. Louis. So the hair is gone, and my parents are eternally grateful to everybody in Pittsburgh for how they turned around their son. I think as my adopted grandmother, Shulamit always got a kick out of the fact that my youngest son, by the name of Hans, who is now 3 years old, and her shared the same birthday. I think it's not a coincidence, and it's not only because of that her memory will live on. Thank you.
We definitely heard about the hair, but I would say the story that she liked to tell even more was that you went on to study social work and about the birthday that your son shares with her. So I'm so happy that you were with us. Thank you for joining us. I want to invite Ms. Baverso to please join us.
Hi there. Good afternoon. My name is Becky Baverso, and I have had the distinct honor of meeting many Holocaust survivors over the course of my tenure as a teacher, but none who I consider to be as special as my dear and cherished friend, Shulamit. When she first agreed to speak to my class almost 10 years ago, she insisted, of course, that I take her to lunch so we could get to know each other. And that became a routine over the years. When she would speak, we would have lunch together. But in that first meeting, I took a lot of notes in my journal because, as you all know, Shulamit had a way with words. She had a lot of hilarious one-liners to share, and she was hysterically funny. And more importantly, she was deeply profound. I loved her immediately and will never stop loving her. At the end of our outing, when she was getting out of the car, she said to me, "My dearest Becky, I'm too old to trust my memory for dates, but I will remember always that we met on a Saturday and shared a meal and became friends." Over the years, Shulamit was gracious enough to speak to my class 8 times. She inspired me and my students with her enthusiasm and with her love for teaching. She loved to teach children to be kind to each other. On our lunch date, she told me, "Everything you have can be taken from you, but what's inside you cannot be taken. Education, suffering, love, these things remain and not be taken from you. You must always love and you must never hate, because hate takes too much energy. You must always learn. I pray that you will not know suffering, and I pray that you will never cause suffering. This is what I want to teach the children." And teach them she did. I have always believed that the love and energy a person holds can never really leave us. Shulamit's legacy will live on in each of our hearts and in the hearts of the children whom she touched. On this day, as we cast off our tears and our mourning and our grief, I leave with you her words of hope from that first day that I met her, a perfect gift of wisdom on a Saturday when we shared a meal and became friends. She said to me, "Only those who endure great suffering can really smile. They can smile at the flowers, they can smile at the sun and the moon. Only the people who have really suffered know how to hope."
We're going to hear from another teacher now, and that is Daniel Shaner.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dan Shaner. Although Shulamit was one of 2 people on this planet that insisted on always calling me Danny, and the other was my mother, so I love that. It's vital that we never stop speaking about the first 10 years of Shulamit's life, but just for today, I want to talk about the last 10 years of it. This is completely selfish on my part because that's the part of her life when I knew her. I've told the story of the evening that I met Shulamit enough times that I don't need to repeat it. A seminar on the teachings of Dr. Elie Wiesel took a back seat to the amazing woman who was seated next to me. And in one evening, my life was changed forever. I'm a much better teacher and an immeasurably better man due to my friendship with Shulamit. She showed me that quiet human strength and generous empathy can truly change the world. She had time for everyone that she met. She listened and she talked, and she did it in that order. She taught me to speak with my students instead of to them. I have a poster on the wall behind me with a quote from Dr. Vassell that reads, "When you listen to a witness, you become a witness." Everyone who hears my voice right now is a witness, at least partially due to Shulamit. We know the truth and the dangers that can come from a legacy of hate. We know that we must be vigilant and brave enough to stand up against oppression. More importantly, tens of thousands of young people, school students, university students, young parents, our country's and our world's future know the truth because of Shulamit. The time I spent with Shulamit is one of the great blessings of my life. Through her, I learned to understand the dangers of hate, but also to have so much hope for the future. The blessing is not the memory of her early years. It's her laughter, her smile, her love of children, her introducing me to Brandy Alexander, and her love of cookies as well. And the way that she sat with my students and shared a life with them. I will never meet a stronger person or a better teacher. They say you should never meet your heroes because you're bound to be disappointed. When I met Shulamit, I met my hero. Thank you.
Next up, we have Marilyn Messina, and I want to say something very quickly, Mrs. Messina. I want to thank you for making it possible for Shulamit to participate in so many things and really being her angel, and for everything that you have done for her in the last months of her life. And since then, since we lost her, you're a treasure, Marilyn Messina. I'm going to turn it over to you.
That's tough. Thank you very much. What's in a name? Besides the fact that the name Shulamit is the feminine for Solomon and also means peace or shalom, there is much more. S is for her sharing her story as a hidden child and the love she had for people and life. H for her humility. C.S. Lewis defined humility as not thinking less of yourself, it's thinking of yourself less. That describes Shulamit perfectly. For her, it was about what was right, not who. She was always amazed about how many people recognized her and who she didn't know or remember. I would tell her that Nat King Cole sang a song about her, Unforgettable. She would just smile. Used for Shulamit's understanding of the totality of the present situation she would find herself in. This allowed her to develop lasting relationships wherever she would go, as seen by the many who miss and want to honor her. L stands for love and likable. Just before she passed, Shulamit told me that all the love and support she received kept her going. To receive so much, one must give much, like Shulamit did. A is the appreciation which was foremost in Shulamit's daily life, whether it was a pack of Israeli wafers for her doctors or a big hug. Giving couldn't go unnoticed in Shulamit's world. M, merciful. St. Thomas Aquinas defines merciful as compassion in a heart for another person's distress, which moves one to help. Wherever there was a need, Shulamit would help to make things better. I, with her inspiring message that you can make a difference, many people made a change in their thinking by becoming aware of the realities of the Holocaust. Shulamit would agree with Anne Frank about how wonderful it is that no one need wait a single moment before starting to inspire the world. Shulamit never hesitated a moment to tell her story of survival when asked. T is for Shulamit's tenderness felt for all those who needed comfort. Her teddy bear project was just one way to make those hurting feel a little better. That is what is in Shulamit's name. That was Shulamit. Shulamit, may your memory be our blessing. Angels kiss you, devil miss you.
And finally, I want to invite Mr. Jim Lucco. Unmute you.
Hi, thank you. My name is Jim Lucco. I teach Holocaust Studies at Butler Community College. And I'd just like to personally thank Marilyn as well. She made Shulamit available to so many hundreds and thousands of people that she wouldn't have been if it wasn't for Marilyn. And I would like to thank Lauren and her staff for providing us today with this opportunity to remember and honor a person that's all very special to us. One thing I'd like to say to Nick, I took Shulamit to Bravo one time, and it took us 45 minutes to get to the table. And then we ate dinner with everyone that was around us. That was part of our dinner by the time it was over. But one of the many things I admire about the Jewish culture is how you celebrate funerals. I was raised Catholic, and we have a very different method of paying tribute. I'll do my best. I miss my friend. Honestly, I don't like voicemail, and I rarely listen or respond to it, except those from Shulamit. I saved those. I have them now on my phone. She could change my mood in seconds. And there were so many times I would receive a message from her, and the positivity and enthusiasm rated directly into me. I miss her inflection in her voice and her excitement. She treated me like she was the president of my fan club. She was a one-woman propaganda machine, and she always made me feel so special. I miss going to see her and her always having halva and Israeli cookies for me. I miss the updates and the stories of all of her activities and her views on world events. I miss how good she can make me feel about myself. And the last time we spoke, she knew the situation, as she made me make promises to her, which I did, and I will honor those for the rest of my life. I know I'm a better person and a better human being by knowing her, and someday I will smile again, but when I think of her, but not today, I miss my friend.
In another time, we would have all been in one room to celebrate Shulamit. The virtues, however, of this time where we've become good at using this kind of technology, we have people from different parts of the world with us right now to remember Shulamit, to be inspired by her memory, to hold each other close, to do what Shulamit would have done, which is to greet the world always with love. So I want to thank everybody for being with us. We are working on a couple of ways to continue the Teddy Bear Project. I welcome any communication from anyone who's on this call. Watch this spot. You will hear more from us. And may Shulamit's memory forever be a blessing. Thank you.